Overall, we are just about done with the onboarding app. All we need to do is set up our sliders, and our onboarding app will be complete. Let's take a look at the design and see what we're going to work on. In this tutorial, we're going to go back to our personal info view, and now we're going to add the age, weight, and height sliders. This will take a couple of steps before we actually get to the end result. What we first need to do is take a default slider and make some modifications to it so that we can make it look like our onboarding slider. Instead of creating a custom slider ourselves, we are going to use a custom slider that's already been set up. Let's go back to Xcode and get started. In Xcode, open the navigation panel and right-click on the supporting views folder. Select SwiftUI view under user interface and hit next. We're going to name this file custom slider view and hit create. I've already added the custom slider that will be the base for our sliders. The base custom slider view needs a couple of parameters that we have to pass to it. Above the body, let's add @binding var value : double. On the next line, we're going to say var range : closed range less than double greater than equals 1 ... 100. Now let's update previews. Let's add a value parameter and say .constant. And inside of the parentheses, we're going to set it to 100.0. For range, we're going to set it to 100 ... 300. Inside of the body, let's go ahead and delete the text view. Now let's add a VStack inside of the body and set the spacing to 0. Inside of the VStack, we're going to add a ZStack, and we're going to set the alignment to alignment, parenthesis, horizontal, and we'll set the horizontal alignment to .center. Now let's set vertical to .bottom. Inside of the ZStack, we'll add an HStack, and we'll set the spacing to open parenthesis, UI screen, .main, .bounds, .width, -160, closing parenthesis, /55. Now inside of the HStack, let's add for each, open parenthesis, 0 ... less than 51, comma, ID : \self, index n. What we are doing here is we're going to create each of the individual lines that you see in our slider. So we're creating 51 items that will indicate the line indicators for the slider. This is roughly just going to be more for visual effect. It won't be 100% accurate. If you are a math whiz, this is where you probably will shine, and you can go ahead and customize this and make it work in a real world environment app. But for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to fake it. Inside of the for each, we're going to add a rectangle, and we're going to add a fill modifier. Inside of the fill modifier, we're going to set it to index percentage 5 = 0, question mark, color.black.opacity, parenthesis 0.55, color.black.opacity 0.3. So what we're saying here is every fifth element, we're going to set the opacity to 0.55. Otherwise, we're going to set the opacity to 0.3 or 30%. Next, let's add a frame modifier and set the width to 2 and set the height to index percentage 5 = 0, question mark, 20, 12. So similar to what we are doing in the fill, every fifth element, we're going to say that the height is 20, otherwise the height is 12. This completes the background of our sliders. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the custom slider that I added to this project before, and we're going to add it on top of the indicators. Underneath the HStack, let's add a couple of lines and type slider view parenthesis. For the value, we're going to set it to $value. For the slider range, we're going to set it to range. For thumb color, we're going to set it to base.purple. And for the min track color, we're going to set it to clear. And for the max track color, we're also going to set this to clear. Let's give the slider view some horizontal padding and set it to 20. We're also going to give it the frame modifier and set the height to 35. Now we have a custom slider that we can use for age, height, and weight without having to create them each time. We've now created the slider, but let's go back to the design. You'll see that each slider has the same format, a title to the left, a value to the right with the slider at the bottom. So we can make a dynamic section that we can pass in a title, a value, and a range. And then we only have to create this one time and we can reuse it for age, weight, and height. Let's go back to Xcode and create this view now. Open the navigation panel and select the supporting views folder. Now hit Command N. Now select SwiftUI View under User Interface and click Next. Let's name this file Personal Section View and hit Create. Above the body variable, add @environment object var model : onboarding view model. Underneath the onboarding view model, we're going to add var title : string. On the next line, we're going to add binding var value : double. On the next line, we'll say var range : closed range less than double greater than equals 1 ... 100. And finally, we'll say var is height section : bool equals false. So we're adding this is height section because the value is displayed differently for height. In Swift previews, let's go ahead and add an environment object and set it to onboarding view model. Now let's add the properties for the personal section view. We're going to set the title to title goes here. We're going to set the value to .constant parenthesis 100.0. We're going to set the range to 100 ... 225. Inside of the body, let's delete the text view and let's add a VStack with the alignment set to .leading. Inside of the VStack, let's add an HStack. Then inside of the HStack, we're going to add a text view and we're going to set the text view to title. Let's give the text view some leading padding and set it to 15. For the text view, let's add a font modifier and set it to .custom, and then set the custom font to .medium with a size of 18. After the text view, let's add a spacer. After the spacer, let's add another text view. Inside of the quotes, we're going to add \, parenthesis. Then we'll add value, comma, specifier, : inside of the specifier quotes, we're going to add %.0f. For this text view, we'll add trailing padding and set it to 15. We'll add a font modifier, set it to .custom, then set the custom modifier to .black, and the size we'll set to 24. Outside of the HStack, let's add a custom slider view, and let's set the value to $value and the range to range. For the containing VStack, we're going to add a frame modifier with a height set to 100. We're also going to add a background and set it to .white. We'll add a corner radius and set it to 15. We'll add horizontal padding and set it to 15. We are finished with the personal section view. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel.